The leftists have finally come for Dr. Seuss. 6 books will be taken out of publication, and Joe Biden has bucked predecessors, omitting Dr. Seuss from his Read Across America Day proclamation after Virginia's school system drops iconic children's books because of racial undertones. Let me give you the quick synopsis for this video. I think that many of these people on the left claiming to be social justice activists are actually white supremacists. And I mean in the literal sense. And I think they try and use the phrase white supremacy to mean something else. Let me stop, actually. I'll have a better way to explain this. There was a viral meme. Some dude just on Facebook wrote this thing up explaining why the left was so hell-bent on changing definitions and controlling the meaning of language. And he said, it's actually really simple. The reason they call everyone a white supremacist and they smear the right, it's because they're the exact same as the alt-right. And if people actually realize what they're doing is racism, and culturally insensitive, well, they'd probably reject it. That's why they're now referring to color blindness, for instance, as racist, as true racism. They argue they're anti-racist. Well, there's a reason why they use the phrase anti-racist, because it's not the same as saying don't be racist. They create a new word with a different definition. To be fair, the concept of anti-racism has been around for some time. But it's a way for them to argue that the moderate individuals who believe in civil rights and Martin Luther King Jr.'s Dr. King's dream, they're the true racists. But it does create a problem, because then how do you explain Dr. King's dream that one day his children will be judged on the content of their character, not the color of their skin? Now, when it comes to Dr. Seuss being banned, honestly, I don't really care. There are some really old depictions that were fairly racialized. I don't necessarily want to call them racist because they're drawings from a different time. I'm not sure Dr. Seuss's intent was actually to disparage people, but there's certainly racial undertones. That's for sure. One of these drawings that's being scrutinized, I'm not even convinced is all that bad and I can even show it because I don't think it's that bad. Some of them I can't show, no joke. In which case I understand why they're now getting canceled. Sure. And I'll point this out too. 6 books not being published anymore. A lot of books aren't published anymore. Do we really care when like any book falls out of print? So I don't care all that much. If you want the Dr. Seuss book, you can still get it. Someone will still make it. It's just the company that prints them isn't going to, sure. I do think it's kind of dumb, don't get me wrong. And I wonder what the real reason for canceling this guy is. And I got some ideas. I think, the left really hates it when I bring this up because they say things like, Tim, quote, the left are the real racists pool. Okay, well, not the entirety of the left, not the progressives, and not most liberals, but certainly strong elements of what we would call today the left. I'll just put it this way. The left has been infiltrated by legit white supremacists. I'm not even kidding. And they use these clever tricks to be able to implement policies that will ultimately harm them. A really good example of all of the products that have been canceled as of late, Aunt Jemima, Cream of Wheat, Mrs. Butterworth's, they tend to be depictions of people of color. Yet Mr. Clean and Little Debbie and Wendy and these other brands are fine. There was a guy on Twitter, I have his video, I think it was on TikTok. He points this out, and it's something a lot of us have pointed out. Why is it that so many of these white leftists are trying to remove minorities from prominent brands, even when the families of these brands are saying, stop, don't do this? I'm pretty sure it was Aunt Jemima, the family of the woman who was the model for Aunt Jemima. They get paid. They get royalties. They like the image. The left are the ones taking it away. The right now, conservatives and the moderates and many moderates are the ones saying, let them have their brands. Like, I think it was Uncle Ben, for instance. No, maybe not Uncle Ben. Cream of Wheat. You have the black chef. Apparently, he's like a legit black chef, like a real guy, and was used as the model for this brand because surprisingly back then they thought it was a good thing and would help them sell their product. Get this. In today's day and age, Aunt Jemima, the company, thinks it would hurt their sales to have a black woman on the box of pancake mix. Why? Not because of conservatives, but because of the left. I'm doing air quotes here because whatever this faction is, you now have major corporations saying we won't have a person of color on our brand because it will hurt sales. That's why they're doing it. And it's because the left is threatening them. So I ask you, Who are the racists? Who are the racists? Well, let's read through this and we'll talk about the Dr. Seuss thing. Now, I want to point out, I don't care all that much about the Dr. Seuss thing. I love it. I tweeted when they announced the potato head, they were dropping the Mr. from Mr. Potato Head, making him gender neutral. Apparently, it was a bunk headline. It was fake news. The reality was the brand name for the product was Mr. Potato Head. And the company, I think it's Hasbro, said, but we do have Mrs. Potato Head, so why are we calling it Mr. when we want to sell Mrs. too? Get rid of the Mr. and sell both under the name Potato Head, and you still can buy Mr. or Mrs. The AP, I guess, made it seem like they're making the potato gender neutral. I never cared. I thought it was dumb. So what? Give me a gender neutral potato and I'll slap whatever I want on it. But someone took one of my tweets where I said, how is the potato even gendered anyway? And then made it seem like it was right-wing outrage. And I'm like, actually, my tweet's fairly in line with many leftists. It's weird how this works. Depending on where they assume you are, they'll interpret your tweets in different ways. So rest assured, they're going to come out and be like, Tim Pool's freaking out about, Dr. Seuss. No, I don't care. Take the books out of print. Fine, whatever. I think there are some images that, probably were racially insensitive. So, whatever. Look, go buy the book right now if you're really concerned about it. I'm against book burnings and book bannings and all that stuff. So, I don't know, man. It is what it is. The difference with this and say the products taking the spokesperson or the mascot off, that's very, very different. That's them saying they don't want non-white faces to be prominent. That to me is extremely racist. Well, the story about Joe Biden, I think it's fairly simple. They say President Joe Biden did not mention Dr. Seuss during his proclamation for Read Across America, bucking a more than 20-year trend. President Clinton's, Obama, and Trump have all mentioned Seuss in conjunction with a day designed to encourage school children to read more. Biden's omission comes as a Virginia school district dropped the author from its list. Loudon schools say they have shifted the emphasis of the March 2nd day. District claim research in recent years has revealed strong racial undertones. That's insane. They're implying that like the Who's of Whoville are actually a racist depiction or something. Here's what they say. It came following a 2019 report called The Cat is Out of the Bag. Orientalism, anti-blackness, and white supremacy in Dr. Seuss's children's books. What? These people are nuts, man. Read Across America Day had traditionally focused on Seuss books, but since 2017, the focus has shifted to celebrating a nation of diverse readers. All right, well, apparently the news is 6 books. I think it's 6 books that I said. Yeah, 6 Dr. Seuss books will no longer be published because of racist and insensitive imagery, Dr. Seuss Enterprises revealed on Tuesday. Now, for YouTube and anybody else, I'm going to be showing one of the images they claim is racially insensitive. But I would like to stress I am, in fact, an Asian man from an Asian family, and I'm allowed to, I better be allowed to respond to this, what they say is a racist depiction of Asians. In this image, they say it's a so-called Chinaman who eats with sticks. I in no way find this offensive in any capacity. Now, okay, I'm not Chinese. I'm Korean and Japanese, mostly Korean. But what's the problem? It's just a guy wearing traditional clothing eating rice. Like, I don't get it. Why are they removing this? I think, well, look, I don't know what their intentions are. I can't read their minds. I can only tell you what their actions will produce. And let me explain what their actions will produce. When they say you can't have a depiction of traditional Chinese clothing and a guy eating with sticks, they remove that imagery. What do you think kids will see in the books they read now? They're not going to see this. They're going to see a sea of white faces. It's almost as if they're doing it on purpose. I wonder if any of these people, no. I don't even need to wonder. I've actually talked to a lot of these people, and I've asked them, do you actually know what the alt-right believes? Now, it's not identical to what the left is, and the alt-right really gets mad when I mention the similarities or refer to the left as identitarian, because they want that word and the left doesn't want that word, but that's what it is. Identity-based policy and law, government based on identity. It's really what they all want. So in the end, if two people have the exact same ideology, the only argument is the core, like it's not even the core political policies between them. I'm pretty sure a bunch of the alt-right have advocated for universal health care and curtailing freedom of speech. It's almost the same thing. The difference is the overt nature of whether or not they want white people to be on the forefront. The other day I did a segment where I talked about in the Sacramento school district, they want to create white racial affinity groups to teach children about their shared culture and history so they can come to terms with what it means that what their privilege has done to the world. And I'm like, do you think that if you remove all the people of color, all of the marginalized people and minorities from products, from books, and then tell all the white kids to go together and form a racial collective, you think they're going to despise themselves? You think they're going to now advocate for social justice? They're going to advocate for themselves. They're sick and tired of being told they're wrong or they're bad inherently. Take a look at this. One of the stupidest stories. Ex-CIA Director John Brennan says he's increasingly embarrassed to be a white male during TV debate on Republican response to U.S. Capitol riot. My friends, they would say that 2 + 2 = 5. Because if you actually had the ability to put things together and calculate as to what was going to happen from all of this, you'd probably be worried about what they're doing. Let me break it down for you. Sacramento School District back in September wants all the little white kids to be in white racial affinity groups to talk about their shared history and the impact their privilege has had on the world. Yeah, that's very much like, I don't know what, a Klan meeting? When a bunch of white people get together and then they start asking each other, what has the impact been for white people on the world? They don't say bad things. Why would they? When these young people hear CIA, Brennan say he's embarrassed to be a white male, do you think that people choose to hate themselves? Some will. Some will be self-loathing, and many are. You've got a lot of male feminists who are very disgustingly self-deprecating, and it's pathetic. But most guys probably would not do that. Okay, how about half of guys? How about half of white people in general? If you take all white people, say you should be embarrassed to be white, then remove all the people of color from all these major brands, get rid of any book that has a depiction of someone who's of non-white culture, tell all these white people to talk about their shared history, what do you think they're going to do? Half of them might actually be social justice-y and say, aren't we bad or whatever? But the other half might actually be like, hey, look at all the really awesome stuff we invented. The telephone, the plane, going to the moon. Sounds like we did great, huh? The problem is you hyper-focus. You take these people and put them into racial groups and you tell them to focus on what their race means. They're going to start voting in the interests based on race. And 60% of the country is white. That's why I have to wonder if the true goal of all of this is and always has been white supremacy. Because look, I often talk about this. I can't read anyone's mind. I don't know what their intentions are. It is said the path to hell is paved with good intentions. So maybe it's a bunch of well-to-do liberals with good intentions doing everything in their power and accidentally emboldening white identitarianism. I guess. Or maybe they've actually been infiltrated by people who are smart enough to know how to manipulate a system, and they understand doing this will create what the alt-right basically wants. There was this point with Sarah Jong. She was this New York Times writer, and she was posting insane anti-white racist stuff on Twitter for years. She was doing it. And when she got called out, the New York Times said, yeah, well, she was just fighting back, so it's allowed. On 4chan, a bunch of white nationalists were celebrating. They were saying they wished for 1,000 more Sarah Jongs in the New York Times because it would trigger a white racial awakening. They want white people to feel aggrieved. They want them to feel embarrassed and ashamed because it's a negative feeling they can't get rid of, nothing they can do. And then they want to get rid of all of these images of people and cultures that are not white so that white people find reprieve only with their own race. These people are white supremacists, in my opinion. Fine. Call them social justice activists, whatever you want. But the reality is we've seen in many communities, particularly with like Farrakhan, the overlap between the white supremacist or white identitarian ideology is fairly similar. The difference? Well, with black identitarianism, things like Black Lives Matter, they're in favor of black communities. They're segregating college graduations. They're segregating dorms. Did you know this? That dorms are segregated at some California universities? No joke. And they say it's a good thing. We have the Sacramento University saying racial segregation. I'm sorry. This is us going back in time. It absolutely is. Check this out. In this tweet, Matt Cromer says, quote, he's quoting a guy in a TikTok video. I don't know the guy's name. Liberals are no different than they've ever been. Their tactics may have been different, but they don't want people of color anywhere they go. And he shows Mrs. Butterworth's, Aunt Jemima, Uncle Ben's, and Cream of Wheat. It's actually a fairly well put together video. I don't necessarily want to go into the liberals are no different thing. I can certainly say the Democratic Party has historically been the party of racism, slavery, Jim Crow, etc. Those are facts. A lot of people in the media don't want to admit it, but it's true. And they say there was a great flippening. Something happened. I disagree. I think what happened was actually, hold on. There is, to a certain degree, some kind of flip. But when they say that the party switched and the Republicans had the Southern strategy and want to become racist, I don't think that's true. I think the Democrats realized there are subversive methods towards opposing, certain ideologies. That there's an old parable, I guess. Supposedly it's a racist parable anyway. But the idea is that like some dude, he's like walking through, he's traveling around and he sees a bunch of people and they're pointing a stick. They're pointing spears at a watermelon, freaking out. They're terrified. They don't know what it is. They're scared. So the guy walks up and says, "What are you doing? It's a watermelon." And he just breaks it open. And then when people see the insides, they all scream, he ripped it open with his bear, and they run freaking out. And he's like, "Wait, come back. It's just fruit." Then another man one day is walking by and he sees once again, the people are all freaking out, pointing their sticks at the watermelon. And then he says, "Quick, everyone, run from the monster. Come with me." And they all run with him. By joining them and approaching them on their level, he was able to gradually convince them to then eat the watermelon. And then a year later, they're all cultivating and eating watermelon. I heard that story once. Someone told me it was racist because it has something to do with the Middle East. So maybe that's the case. The general idea is if you act as one of the group and approach them on their terms, you won't shock them or surprise them. What I see in all of this stuff, the banning of these books, the banning of these depictions, is exactly that. White supremacists approaching liberals on their terms, telling them, here's why it would be good to get rid of this imagery. Remove it from the public eye. And then they do it. And then what do you think's going to happen in 2 years? I will say it again. When you have 60% of the country white, most of them, the overwhelming majority, having no idea what any of this stuff is, no idea what the culture war is, what do you think's going to happen? It's fairly obvious. They're going to eventually be smeared, insulted. They're losing jobs. They're losing scholarships. They're being told that they're evil and wrong and bad. But guess what? They're in the majority. So you know what's going to happen? They'll just say, okay, we're supposed to vote based on our identity groups, our affinity groups. Okay, we vote for us. Boom. Congratulations. That's what I was talking about the other day with California. They wanted to get rid of the civil rights law from their constitution. And I had to tell my friend this, like, you realize most of California is white, right? If you tell people they're supposed to vote based on race, do you think all of a sudden white people will just start hating themselves and being like, we're going to vote to make our lives worse? People will almost exclusively vote for themselves. You could go up to somebody and say, only people who, can do backflips will get $1,000. And people are going to be like, I can do a backflip. I'll vote for that. The people who can't do backflips will be like, no way, that's not fair. It's just typically how it goes, right? In this image, or in this video, I'm sorry, this guy shows these 4 brands, Cream of Wheat, Uncle Ben's, Land O'Lakes even. Look at that. They took the Native American off. And he points out, here's the things that remain. KFC is fine. Quaker is fine. The Burger King guy is fine. Little Debbie, Wendy's, Chef Boyardee, Sun-Made Raisins, Bird's Eye. I don't know what Captain's Bird's Eye is. All of the white icons, Mr. Clean, even all these other mascots, absolutely okay. I got this meme that was posted by Luke We Are Change. Apparently it's from Duncan Colton. Got to give credit where credit is due. And you can see Mr. Potato Head climbing the ladder to heaven. And in heaven, we have the Washington Redskins. You have the Cleveland Indians. I think it's Cleveland Indians, right? You have Paw Patrol, Land O'Lakes, Aunt Jemima, Uncle Ben's, and Gina Carano. Mr. Potato Head was not canceled, okay? That was fake news. But I thought this was interesting in what was being depicted as being in heaven. Because save Gina Carano and the dog from Paw Patrol, it's all depictions in some capacity of non-white individuals. Aunt Jemima, the Land O'Lakes lady, a lot of Native American stuff. Apparently, my understanding is that a lot of these Native Americans either did not care about the names Redskins or actually thought it was cool or it was funny. There's also a funny, meme that some guy had a shirt. It said Caucasians, and it was like a white guy, and it was like all these leftists were high-fiving each other, like, "Yeah, you show them," and it's just like, but it's funny. I thought that shirt was funny. What's the problem? We like it. Can't we all just get along? I guess it's strange to me that you have this image of a Native American chief, I suppose, And white liberals said, get rid of it. It's mean. It's bad. It's like, okay, I guess there were some Native Americans that are upset with it. Apparently now there's like another Native American tribe that's angry at Jeep Cherokee. So sure, fine, whatever. But what's the end result? You remove all of these things, you isolate and you segregate. Look, man, fine, whatever. Get rid of Dr. Seuss. I don't care. I'm just telling y'all what's going to happen. We are moving towards identitarianism. Racial segregation and the calls for racially identitarian laws are going to result in white people overwhelmingly voting for themselves. So I hope you're happy, leftists, and I hope you're paying attention, but I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel, and I will see you all then.